The temple of the Chachapoyan warriors is where we first got introduced to Indiana Jones. Indy evaded spears, darts, and a large boulder to escape from the temple with an ancient golden idol. Those first 12 minutes of Raiders of the Lost Ark have been called the greatest opening sequence in action film history. But what if, instead of a temple, Spielberg had picked a cave for Indy to escape from? In this rewrite, Indy descends into a cave first described in 380 BC. As the daylight dissolves, he sees people who have lived in the cave from infancy, with their legs and necks bound to the floor and the wall of the cave. And all they can do is stare directly at the cave wall and shadows that are moving across that wall. Indy turns and sees far above and behind him, there's a huge fire burning. And then he notices a roadway and a short wall that's between the captives and the fire. People start walking across the road, and they're carrying images of people and animals and objects. Indy realizes that the prisoners cannot see anything that's happening behind them. They're only able to see the shadows of the objects cast upon the cave wall in front of them. Indy edges a little closer to the prisoners, and he hears them telling each other narratives about the meaning of the shadows. He realizes the shadows are reality for the prisoners. They don't understand that what they see are outlines of objects in front of a fire, much less that these objects are inspired by real things outside of the cave. So Indy decides to rescue a prisoner. He brings the prisoner up to the road, and as the prisoner's eyes adjust, he realizes that the objects that he sees are creating the shadows that have been his entire world. Then he pulls him all the way out of the cave, and slowly, prisoner's eyes adjust to the light of the sun, and he can see the people and animals that the objects in the cave had been made to represent. The act of leaving the cave has allowed the prisoner to transform from seeing shadows to experiencing reality. Now, in my script, the movie is called Indiana Jones and Plato's Cave. Plato was a student of Socrates and a teacher of Aristotle, and he wrote the cave as an allegory for how all of us learn complex and important topics. In the beginning, we see shadows of objects that others want us to see. But when we seek the truth, we begin to see the objects and realize the shadows were actually created by other people. And if we persist, we can know the reality that was the source of the objects that cast the shadow. The cave was intended to teach the journey towards really knowing something versus accepting an explanation given by others. And once you know about the cave, you begin to see it in many, many of our cultural icons. And the most famous just might be a little girl from Kansas.
Come on.
Come forward!
Look at that. Look at that.
I am Oz, the great and powerful. Who are you?
If you please, I am Dorothy, small and meek. We've come to ask you.
The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself, frightening him like that when he came to you for help.
Do not arouse the wrath of the great and powerful Oz.
If If you were really great and powerful, you'd keep your promises.
Do you presume to criticize the great Oz? You ungrateful creatures! Think yourselves lucky that I'm giving you audience tomorrow instead of 20 years from now.
Oh,
The great Oz has spoken.
oh.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Beyond Dorothy, we see the concept in the cave in The Matrix, Pan's Labyrinth, the Lego Movie, The Truman Show, Interstellar, The Village, Us, and Shutter Island. And frankly, I think there's a little bit of the cave in the hype surrounding artificial intelligence. In the next few minutes, I'd like to put into context what's happening with AI right now. I'll start with a little history. I'll describe what AI is. I'll share some insights from 2 studies that we just completed. And then I'll be joined by an expert who can coach all of us on how to get started with AI. Some of us may know about a plaque in a room that influences a lot of our work in technology today. In the back of a conference room, in the lodge at Snowbird, up Little Cottonwood Canyon in Utah, there's a memento, and it celebrates the creation of the Agile Manifesto in February 2001. But a plaque almost 50 years older is having an even greater impact on technology today. That plaque hangs in Dartmouth Hall at Dartmouth University, and it honors the first use of the term artificial intelligence. In 1956, John McCarthy organized the Dartmouth Summer Research Project on artificial intelligence. The concept of this conference was that our intelligent human behavior, it exists in processes that can be formalized and actually reproduced in a machine. And that began the first 5 chapters of artificial intelligence. The first chapter, I'm going to call the HAL days. And that's a nod to the talking computer from 2001, A Space Odyssey. Because in the beginning, there was a focus on trying to get a computer to interact in a real human-like manner. There was Doctor, which simulated a psychiatric interview. There was Perry, that mimicked a paranoid schizophrenia. There was Ractor, that actually created English language prose. And then there was the well-known ELIZA. ELIZA was a natural language processing program so famous that it was on an episode of the TV show Young Sheldon. Somewhat prophetically, ELIZA's creator, named Joseph Weizenbaum, was shocked because individuals, including his own assistant, attributed human-like feelings to ELIZA. And he ended up writing a book to explain the limits of a computer. The second chapter of AI came to be known as AI Winter. Ironically, it began when Business Week joined the hype in 1984 and trumpeted the headline, AI, it's here. Lisp was the main language used for AI, and in 1987, the Lisp machine market completely collapsed. In 1988, all spending on AI for the Strategic Computing Initiative was canceled. And in the early 1990s, Japan ended its 5th generation computer project, which was to build a supercomputer for artificial intelligence. The Association for Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, the conference that attracted 6,000 visitors in 1986, shrank to just 2,000 by 1991, and AI-related articles started decreasing in 1987 and reached a low point in 1995. The third chapter of AI should be called AI Can Beat You. And that's because that's when Deep Blue became a global celebrity after the computer defeated Garry Kasparov in 1997, and this was the first computer to defeat a world chess champion in a match under tournament regulations. Led to the start of a project in 2006, which resulted in IBM Watson defeating Jeopardy's all-time champion Ken Jennings in 2011, followed by Google DeepMind, who defeated the top-ranked Lee Sedol in a Go match in 2016. A real major breakthrough in how we experience computers happened in the fourth chapter of AI, when in the mid-2000s, AI moved from symbolic systems to learning systems. In symbolic systems, the rules are created by humans. In learning systems, the machine learns the rules by looking for patterns and using feedback loops. So, for example, TurboTax is a symbolic system, and Google Maps is a learning system. The fifth generation of AI began on November 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT burst onto the scene and captured our attention, much like Eliza had and Deep Blue had before. But here was AI that could speak our language, understand context, nuance, humor, AI that could create new content. This was clearly innovative, but in many ways, AI had become a lot easier to accomplish for three reasons. The first is neural networks. The second is PT, pre-training, which is the PT in ChatGPT. And the third is instruction tuning. Neural networks are simply the computer's ability to turn words into numbers and then allow the machine to do a lot of high-speed sorting and comparison. So, for example, the word bank can be used with a set of words like money, deposit, or loan that allow the machine to associate it with one type of bank. But if it's used with a set of words like river, water, reeds, or muddy, then the machine identifies it as a different type of bank. Pre-training merely builds off the notion that we humans don't learn everything from scratch. Instead, we transfer and reuse our old knowledge to understand new knowledge and do new tasks. And that's why there's a huge desire to feed all of the content from the New York Times into ChatGPT, so ChatGPT can learn from existing knowledge. Finally, instruction tuning. This works by providing the model with a set of prompts and then adjusting the model's parameters to try to improve the performance. Let me give you an example. It took me 24 tuning iterations of DALL-E to arrive at this syntax that created this picture. That's instruction tuning. Neural networks pre-training and instruction tuning have made huge progress in the last couple of years because of increases in CPU processing speed and access to larger data sets, which all is what led to ChatGPT being born. But what is AI? The simplest way to think about AI is that AI is made up of two parts. So just like sodium and chloride make salt, data and models make AI. Data is the fuel for AI. And for it to run well, it has to have four characteristics. The first has to be cleaned, which y'all understand, getting rid of wrong data, corrupt data. It has to be maintained, so a process and investment of keeping it up to date over time. It has to be transformed, so this is a process by which we get data to a common scale. For example, if you had a data set that had both inches and centimeters. And it has to be curated. This is the integration of other data into your data set. An example would be if you added ice core samples and ocean temperature measurements to climate studies. The Alchemy data platform has these four characteristics built into it to allow you to apply AI to achieve your business outcomes. A model is just a set of steps with a fancy term called an algorithm, and it's used to train a computer to process and analyze data. And there's a lot of different model types, but the thing to know is every model type serves a purpose and an outcome. Let me give you some examples. There's a language model that predicts the next piece of text. A common example is Siri. A fintech example might be card activation. There's deep learning. These are multi-layered neural networks that simulate complex decision-making. Common example is a self-driving car. A fintech example is algorithmic trading, right? Classification. Classification model puts things into the right labels. A common example is a spam filter. And a fintech example is Alchemy's key lifestyle indicators. A retrieval model, we know, this is Google, right? Gets information. A fintech model could be like the Fargo virtual assistant. Predictive models forecast the future, an event, an outcome. A common model is preventative maintenance in manufacturing. And a fintech model would be like the next best offer from Alchemy Data and Marketing. And then finally, a generative model creates new content. Common example is ChatGPT, and a fintech example might be responding to common regulator requests. We think that within our customer base, common use cases will really be twofold. Models based upon transaction data will most likely be classification or prediction, focused on fraud or personalized offers. And models based upon text or unstructured content will be language, retrieval, or generative models, and more applicable to customer support and employee productivity. So, we talked about the history of AI, we've defined AI, but what are you thinking about AI? And how about your customers and your members? Alchemy just completed 2 surveys. One was on FI attitudes towards AI. The second was on generational differences in the desire for AI in financial services. We'll make the full results available to all of you, but I wanted to share with you a couple of observations I found interesting from the 2 studies. First is, y'all think that AI is going to have a huge impact. 96% of you think that in the next 5 years, AI will have a major impact. And 81% of you believe that AI is going to dramatically change the way that you do business. But on the flip side, only 18% of you are leveraging AI today in at least a few areas of your business, yet 75% of you believe that megabanks and neobanks are successfully leveraging AI. Finally, you believe that the top AI use cases will be customer service and fraud protection, and most of you are really hesitant about using AI for digital account opening or money movement. So what? I probably didn't tell you something you didn't know. But when you dig into the generational attitudes, you begin to get some nuance that you have to take into account if your AI strategy is going to be successful. For example, older generations expect AI to support security and fraud protection, while younger generations expect AI to support financial wellness and digital account opening. And they're actually the most hesitant for AI to impact security and fraud protection. These types of insights lead me to the question that I'm asked most when I'm sitting in your office. And it is, so, what should we do to start on our journey for AI? And to answer that question, I decided to talk to Maria Alvarez, who serves on Alchemy's board and has a really interesting day job.
So Maria, tell me a little bit about you and your role at Microsoft.
Absolutely, Alex. I am currently the VP of Experimentation in Microsoft. I am part of the AI platform division. And as you can imagine, that division is in the middle, in the center of AI today.
Awesome, and it's so awesome that you are on the Alchemy board, VP of Experimentation in AI platform. You are the perfect person for me to ask you the following question. I'm in customers' offices all the time, and one of the things they ask me is, what should I do So for somebody that's responsible for technology at their company and new to AI, how should they get started?
Sure. As a technology leader venturing in the world of AI, I would start focusing on three main things. The first one is learn about AI. Learn about the fundamental concepts and terminology of AI, including machine learning, neural networks, natural language processing, and most recently, Gen AI. The second aspect that I wanna, for you to think about is determine how AI can help your business. So reflect on where your business stands today and where you can, you want it to go. And the third one is understanding responsible AI in adoption and the governance. Banking is a regulated industry, so it's extremely critical to understand the principles and procedures for ethical AI adoption, how to understand and mitigate biases and fairness in AI systems, and how it applies to banking.
You talked a little bit about skills in the organization. What skills should an executive in this audience be thinking about that they need to have in their organization?
Great. AI is a multidisciplinary field. At a high level, I will tell you top three. One is data literacy and management. The second one, it is a big one, which is technical skills. And it is that there are a wide range of skills out there. I would say I would list the top ones, which is machine learning, coding frameworks, and then cloud infrastructure and how you will host all this. And the third one I mentioned as well, and you see me emphasizing a lot, is ethics and responsible AI, about bias mitigation, how you can detect bias, and techniques to ensure that they are equitable outcomes.
Well, Maria, thanks for spending time with me, and thank you so much for being on Alkami's board and being in service to Alkami.
Thank you so much.
Maria's a great person to get to know, and if you'd like to see the rest of my interview with Maria or read some of her favorite reference materials for getting started with AI, grab this QR code. In summary, to get ready for AI, we all need to do four things. The first, define your success criteria. Your desired outcome drives your model choice. Your model choice drives your data need. The second is add skills to your organization in data, programming, and ethics. The third is to make sure that your data house is in order. Focus on those four characteristics that I shared earlier. And then finally, decide how you're going to build your model. Are you going to build your own, use off-the-shelf tools, or maybe use a third party? I want to close with a thought from the author of The Cave. Plato wrote, "We can easily forgive a child who's afraid of the dark. But the real tragedy of life is when adults are afraid of the light." If you can only do one thing related to AI, do not let someone else project shadows on the wall that become your definition of AI. Turn around, walk past those who would define AI for you, and take ownership of what it means for your organization. Because here's what I believe. I believe that everybody in this room can learn the basics of AI, communicate the concepts of AI to their organization, and take an action today that helps their organization begin to get business value from AI. Thanks for listening, and thank you so much for being here at CoLab this week.